meeting. We have a really tight agenda, so we'll go to the borough manager update, and then we have guests from the library and the library board to talk through their budget. We have a representative from NIDA here to have a conversation with us about the direction and philosophy. We have the user agreements to talk about from John Walco. I would like to, yeah. You all should have the latest copies. And we'll ask Matt to update us on the trash under the borough manager update. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you can pass it to Tom.
I'm not going to take any of your time up. I'm just going to file the written report with the meeting package. I don't have any update aside from the work that we're going to do tonight together.
Okay. Matt, do you mind if I pop you off to talk about the trash?
I just wanted to put it on the agenda as an informational item, since y'all will be voting to approve the lowest bid for trash and recycling services for the next 3 years. We are excuse me. We are putting forward Republic Services as the lowest responsible bidder, and the motion that will be in front of council tonight will be to award the lowest bid. And council will also need to act on whether or not to award ad alternate 3, which is the spring cleanup. The other ad alternates do not need any additional council action. So that will be in front of you all tonight.
Remind me of what the ad alternate 3 was. Oh, here it is. I see it. 6382 in
Yep.
2020, 6574 2021, 6771 2022.
And the trash cans or barrels are one of the alternates, but
It
they're...
was an alternate, but it doesn't require any council action. It's just a cost that they will charge for any 96-gallon toters.
Oh, they would charge it households.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah.
So it'd be additional bulk pickup.
Okay.
Which is just an option.
It's just
to have.
and their additional bulk pickup values were the cheapest, lowest of all submitted bids as well.
Now, I did say in that, I feel as if Spring Cleanup Week is analogous to Shark Week in that it is, what is that? Shark, am I the only one that gets excited about Shark Week? Wait, that's a thing. Okay, Shark Week is huge. Everyone looks forward to Shark Week in the summer. Thank you, David.
Well, that's funny. I don't know.
Okay, well, forget it, maybe it's not. I felt as if it was a really kind of community kickoff in the spring. It was Spring Cleanup Week where everyone trades their trash and then has block parties, and then I thought it was kind of a cultural component of our town.
Yeah.
But apparently David and I are the only two people like that.
Well, I agree with you, although I don't know what Shark Week is. I do think it's a cultural component for town.
Yeah, it is fun, and it's a way to keep things out of landfills. People, people are
That's
trading.
the best
But
part.
Probably
I don't know
most
if we
of our-
can, I don't know if we can afford it. That's my, if we can't find the money for some of the climate action things,
You want to take it
I
from
would
there?
I would be in favor of cutting it for 1 year. Can it be cut for 1 year, or it has to be a 3-year deal?
It's a contract.
It's got to be the entire ad alternate.
I think it's probably the most environmentally friendly thing we do in this borough. I mean, honestly, the amount of stuff that people, because it's just a whole week, people just cruise and pick up things that I couldn't give away on, the buy nothing site, everyone, but then it's like, oh, I can use this,
It is amazing.
It's gratifying. It's worth storing that stuff in the basement for a year.
So do we want to have, so we're going to have a conversation on that at the table,
Yeah.
because I think we need other people's opinions on the cultural agency of
Shark Week.
well, I won't make that analogy at the table since no one got it, David. Okay, let's move into, we asked Linda and the library board folks to come and talk about the budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and FNA folks, we have that in the SharePoint. The detailed budget.
Library 2020 consultant.
There it is, right there. Yep.
Which folder? Budget?
It is under budget. Sorry, we did not print stuff out.
2020.
Melbourne Borough Council Team Site 2020 budget, Library 2020 consolidated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
How are you? Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I have handouts. What I'm going to say, I'm going to give you all as a handout, so you don't have to take notes or anything. But I'm going to just go over it, and I don't want to waste a lot of your time because I know you've got a tight agenda. I just heard it.
Please feel free to sit.
And that's my son ringing, please ignore it, it'll go away. First of all, what I wanted to do with all of you, because I don't know how familiar you all are with the library and what goes on with the library and how much it gets used, so I wanted to tell you about that a little bit before I talk about the budget. First of all, I know you know that there's the population in Narberth is 4,282 people. Of that, 3,400, 77% of the population is registered at the library. We have 47% of those who are using that library very actively. By that I mean they're coming in and taking out all kinds of materials for themselves, for their children, for whatever. It doesn't count the ones that come in just to use the computer and like that. We have, so far this year, or actually this end of June, statistics that I'm getting you, they've taken out 37,955, let's say 38,000 items from the library. Circulation, 38,007, and interlibrary loans, 37,900. Now, interlibrary loans, for those of you who may not be, is you can go on the website or you can come into the library and you can ask for a book or a DVD or CD or whatever and get it from another library. So it's delivered as soon as you tell us what you want, assuming it's not the bestseller of the whole world. As soon as you tell us what you want, we put it in, and within a day or two, it comes to the library, and you can come pick it up. So that's what we mean by interlibrary loans. And there's almost 38,000 of those that have gone out. Wi-Fi users, we have almost 2,000 that come in just because if there's Wi-Fi capability, and they use it so that they can have the Wi-Fi. In addition, we have all these other services. We have, I'm sure you know about the children's programs that we have all the time. We have ebooks, we have audiobooks, we have DVDs. We have clubs, adult clubs. We have a book club, we have a knitting club, we have a health and welfare club that meets at the library. We do tutoring at the library. We have a speaker series that we have. We have free museum passes. And to date, 147 of those museum passes have been distributed. And I'm going to give you this. We, of course, provide computer and printing access for anybody that needs it. So, and we have assistance. We provide assistance. Some of the people that come into the library aren't that familiar with using the internet or getting online and so forth. So we provide assistance and training for those and the programs and so forth. Another thing I want to make sure that you all are aware of as I go through the budget-ish questions is state funding. And I'm going to, you'll see on here that I'm giving you the public library code for the state, for the Commonwealth rather, of Pennsylvania. But basically what this says, there's a funding for the library called the Incentive for Excellence Aid funding. And we apply for that every year, of course. And that, the requirement on there, and I'm going to read this for you, a plan for the use of Incentive for Excellence Aid by a local library or library system may not be approved if the plan projects a decrease in local government support for normal and recurring operating costs from a previous level. So what that means is, when or if you cut us from what you've given us in the past, we very possibly, we can't beg forgiveness somehow, we very possibly will lose our state aid. And the state aid is $14,029 that we would anticipate getting this year. That's what we got last year. We don't think there'll be an increase this year, but we're not 100% sure yet. So that's what's going on at the library. Now let me talk a little bit about the budget and our budget request, because I know at the last council meeting and online it says that we're asking for a 13% increase. That's factual if you're comparing what we're asking for to what the budget, what the borough gave us last year. But last year, we got a 10% cut. So that's not really comparable. So what I'm giving you in this handout here is, first of all, some information. In 2018, we had a 13% increase in budget, but 78% of that, almost $25,000, is because the borough transferred responsibility for benefits, for the employee benefits, to the library. So the borough no longer covers our employees for any health benefits, whatever, dental, whatever, life insurance, etc. So that year, 2018, with that in mind, we asked for a bigger increase than we normally do, and the borough granted it. You gave us that money because of that increase. But then in 2019, we understood, we looked at the budget and we said, okay, we understood that the borough was having some financial strains. So we changed what we were going to ask before we even asked it. We changed what we were going to ask. We eliminated our plan for having a full-time employee. It's another one, we really need two, but we eliminated that. We continued to just part-time people, and we decreased some of our orders. And so we decreased the amount of money. It was $1,000. Actually $22. But we decreased what we were asking from last year, from 2018. So we asked for less money in 2019. Nevertheless, the budget was cut. And so what we got was $207,428. So that's what you're comparing to when you look at our increase for this year. What we are, when we're doing our planning and trying to balance our budget and so forth, what we're looking at is what we really need, which is what we asked for. This year, we're asking for $234,482, as you know. And what happened here is increased our responsibility again, because the borough has transferred liability insurance to us. So now it's not just cutting us, but we're adding increases to our funding because money is being transferred, the responsibility is being transferred from the borough to the library to manage. So had we not had that increase, the amount of money we would have been asking would have only been 2.1%.
You said that there was the numbers that correspond with this were in our journal. Did you say that in the introductions? I mean, it's really very hard for me to follow this if I can't see your spreadsheet. Yeah, the only spreadsheet I have up doesn't have any numbers in it, so I think I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah. Wait, no, you're in it.
I am. Okay.
I see you in it.
Oh, wait, the income is, for some reason, it's only a total.
Refresh your browser, because I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
everything's
see.
blank.
Okay, all right, so it's me. It's not-
I see that you're in here.
Okay, maybe this is, okay, all right, I apologize for
That's
asking you.
good. You can see
Did you
what
see it?
No, I don't.
Do you want to sit next to
It's a shared document.
Okay.
I'll just go look at Cindy's, that will help, because I'm thinking, boy, I really want to see these
No,
numbers.
this is helpful to see.
And I'm going to give you a handout too, Michelle. I'm going to give you a handout. Exactly what I'm talking about.
Thank
All right,
you.
do you want me to go back over anything?
No,
No,
that's
no,
fine,
no.
just continue, thank you, I'm sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
well, So basically what we're asking for is 2% more than we asked for last year, 2.1. And we're asking that in spite of the fact that we also added to our cost by picking up the liability this year. So now we have responsibility for benefits for the employees. Now we have our total responsibility for liability insurance, and we keep getting cut by the budget, by the borough. So I make a note in this handout that that's about to clarify that, the clarification of that 13% versus 2.1%.
Has the liability insurance amount gone up, is that what's going on?
No, the borough used to pay for liability. Now we're
Okay, but
paying.
it's still, is that a column as paper? Oh, I see, that's higher, general liability. That's because this is a topic for discussion, I understand, thank
May
you.
I ask some clarification to that? The borough still provides property insurance against facilities. So if the building were to be damaged, burned down, it could be a claim could be entered and the building could be repaired and rebuilt. The borough also continues to carry liability insurance for any persons who visit the library and are in the course of their visiting the library are injured or somehow hurt, and a claim is made. So the claim then would be entered, the borough's insurance council will defend those claims. So if anyone walks up the steps and trips and gets hurt, that would be covered by the borough's insurance. We had a discussion about the valuation of the property, and the fact is that the collection is also being covered. The value of the collection is also being covered by the borough in that property umbrella. What we discovered wasn't covered was the liability insurance of the library employees against any acts those employees might do in the course of their business. So that was a gap in coverage that wasn't being covered because the borough wasn't covering the library's employees, never had. They're not employees of the borough. And in our conversations with leadership at the library, we discovered that risk wasn't being covered. So that's you went out, you got quotes, and now it's sort of like a professional liability insurance now is being carried by the library for anything that any employee of the library might do in the course of their normal business. So that's now covered. So you actually have now a really comprehensive coverage package in place for the facilities, the collection, and the employees. And the borough is still paying the facilities and the collection insurance.
So just so I can be clear, because I'm not sure I was, the borough, if somebody falls down and breaks a leg in the library, the borough covers the patron that does that, but we cover the employee if they break their leg. Is that
everyone will get sued.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
fair enough, yeah, everyone will get sued.
Right.
But if there is any claim that's contingent upon the condition of the property and the ownership of the property, the borough would incur that. If there was, and there will be, because that's how plaintiffs work in these cases. If there's any claim against the library personnel, hey, you told me to walk in this place over here and avoid the wet spot, and I still slipped and fell, the library will be named as a defendant as well.
Right.
And you'll need coverage for that, or you'll need to defend it yourselves.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to have. With the amount of people we have coming into the building, yeah, absolutely.
As soon as you made us aware of it, we went for it, and that's why it's in our budget, is because we went and found out and got the prices and so forth, and we went for it. So that's what but I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not just asking for money willy-nilly. We do, every month, we look at our budget, we make sure that we're not going over budget this year. We anticipate we're going to go over budget because we didn't get quite as much as we anticipated, but it'll go over a little bit. But we try really hard, and we look at how much we're spending in line by line. We used to give it to you that way, but now with the new process, we lump it all together. But we used to give you line by line how much we're spending for adult books, how much for children's programs, et cetera, et cetera. And we can still give that because that's the way we're going to be looking at ourselves. So we'll keep maintaining that. And then we'll give you the form the way you prefer it. Okay.
And I noticed your payroll is actually lower.
Yes, now the payroll, the reason the payroll is lower is because we have part-time people. We would prefer to have, as I said, 2 full-time people and then less part-time. But we have part-time and we're paying them less. We pay, unfortunately, our employees, our part-time employees, less than Lower Merion pays their part-time employees. Now, a few years ago, we tried to bring that up to a little bit closer, and we don't anticipate we're going to ever be able to pay as much as Lower Merion pays. Lower Merion has a $5 million plus budget. So we're not going to be able to pay what they pay, but we do, we try to pay at least the minimum $15, what we consider a minimum, not the state. And we try to do that, but that's the reason it's gone down, is because we've had to diminish how many people.
Linda, what's the 26 for fundraising and book sales each year?
I'm sorry.
$26,400 under fundraising activities and book sales?
Okay, well, the book sale is, I guess, self-explanatory. That's
Right.
a book sale. That's the money that we raise. For example, we're going to have again, we'll have Quizzo.
The Quizzo?
Yeah, so Quizzo's a fundraiser. We have a fundraiser letter that goes out. I don't know if that's a separate, I forget now with the new form, if that's a separate line item or if that's in there, but we have a fundraiser letter that you should be getting in your mailboxes momentarily that goes out to the community. And then we have other things that we do for raising money.
That's a budgeted goal. That's a budgeted goal. It's the same every year, so it's not actual. It's budget.
It's a budget number, yes, but normally we make it. We work really hard to try to make it. We try to come up with creative. We recently, you may have seen it, we had a Hamilton ticket raffle.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was
I was too loud. I wanted to-
somebody, one woman, bless her heart, won. I wish it was me.
Yeah. Danielle?
It was in New York, it was in Hamilton in New York on Broadway, and so that was successful. So we did that as a fundraiser. So we keep trying to come up with new ideas to raise money. And if we had, before the Quizzo, we had beer tastings, and we had those for a few years, but then it got boring to people and it diminished in how much so that's when we went to Quizzo. Quizzo is very popular.
Yeah, you actually have 2 second place winners at the table now.
Oh, okay.
We
Congratulations.
won Twizzlers.
Better luck next time.
Yeah, well, there you go. Better luck. Okay, thank you,
Better luck
Linda.
next
This is
time.
really helpful. Any questions from
No,
Linda?
that's very helpful.
Let me give you a copy of what I've
Thank
just
you.
gone through.
Linda, can I ask you to email me a hard copy of this so we can post it under the committee notes?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
So just so the public can see it?
No problem. Matt and Sean, you want a copy? Bottom line, we're asking for your support, please.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, let's skip to NIDA, because I see Sergeant Ian here. Hi.
Want to come up?
Yeah, come sit with us.
Is it okay if we sit? Or do you-
Yeah, please, no, sit.
Protocol is to stand next to that.
Yeah.
Take my old chair.
Yeah.
So we guess now, you still have an open seat, and I haven't looked to see if anybody else has applied, if we've gotten any letters. Okay.
We have 2 open seats.
You have 2 open seats. I don't think
I
that,
believe it's
one that was copied to me directly, so I do know there's at least one person interested.
okay. Can you give us a refresher of NIDA, kind of where you are now? And then we hope to have a discussion with FNA of what is the direction that council would like to see, what's the relationship that we can form, and I know you had a brief conversation with Aaron about this too. So, and then maybe like a call to the public of this is what we want to do, and if you're interested, please apply.
Great, yes.
Okay.
So, a little bit of a sales pitch to both you and the people in the audience, right? Because we do have 2 openings on the Narberth Borough Industrial Development Authority. But based on Pennsylvania state regulation around funding for municipal bond authorities, blah, 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 there are nonprofits in our area that may apply for funding from a bank to get a municipal rate. And in order to get that municipal rate, which sometimes is lower than a regular bond rate, they need a municipal authority to say, yes, this makes sense for the borough. Narberth Borough Industrial Development Authority is that authority that we have set up to serve the Narberth area. So something like a nonprofit school in our area, or any other kind of effort in our area that needs a loan may get that kind of funding from a bank. And we would be part of that agreement, saying, yes, this makes sense for the Narberth Industrial Development Authority. That's one side of what the Narberth Industrial Development Authority and the board approves, that these funding requests, bank requests make sense. By doing that kind of lending that a bank is involved with a nonprofit, the Narberth Industrial Development Authority earns some fees. And those fees collect every year. Based on the amount of lending authority that Narberth has, it kind of sums to like $7,000 to $9,000 a year that the Narberth Industrial Development Authority is able to earn from this bank lending. Because of that, the Narberth Industrial Development Authority has approximately $76,000 in the bank. The Narberth Industrial Development Authority has I'll call it an arm's length relationship with the borough and borough council. It's kind of set up to be separate, although Narberth Borough was very active in setting it up in the first place a long time ago, predating my time on council. So, however, in the more recent times, we've been working, at least Ian and I, and Amy, the preceding board member, we've been working on making sure that the Narberth Industrial Development's goals are in full alignment with the borough's goals, better known as Borough Council's goals. I'm hoping actually that actually means FNA's goals, right? So what we'd like to see, and this is only Ian and I talking, and Andy, those are the three board members that are in Narberth Industrial Development Authority right now. We'd like to see funding requests that help the borough and can make best use of the amount of money that the Narberth Industrial Development Authority either has in the bank or in the future will have in the bank. The amount is very, very small, right? But it is a slightly independent set of people, as much as Ian, Amy, and I, and any other people that are named by council to review funding requests, is independently able to review funding requests that the borough may have. I do not think that the Narberth Industrial Development Authority is going to look at any funding request that doesn't come from borough council. Although that's not really defined in our articles. It's just the way that we've operated, that we're closely tied together.
What's the last funding request you had from Borough Council? Do you know?
Yes, the last funding request came from the library. It was maybe a year and a quarter ago.
No, at least a year, maybe two.
Yeah, it was getting dark, and in the back of the library, and so we looked at upgrading the lighting.
Okay.
Well, we have something on the docket right now, I think, right?
We hope something's coming. We've heard rumors that there are 1, 2, or 3 ideas that council has. I forgot what the one was there.
I think it was the baseball netting.
Baseball netting.
Yes. Yeah, to help with that.
In the midterm past, so about a year ago or 2 years ago, and about a year or year and a half ago was when I joined Narberth Industrial Development Authority. We were discussing with some council members that what Narberth Industrial Development Authority should do is save up some money and do something big. I've learned more recently that Borough Council now has a capital plan and has a plan for which is great, right? But of what you want to do from a funding perspective, and so there's a lot of larger things that are already planned in funding, which may mean that the small amount of money we have may be better spent on smaller projects.
And 79,000 a year, it's going to take a long time to get to.
Exactly, right. And really, you look at $75,000 or whatever that the Narberth Industrial Development Authority has, that's
My opinion of how I would like to see council strategically work with NIDA, but then I'm interested in us having a conversation. You know, something that I've been saying over the last few years is I think we should be really intentional and strategic about going after grants. Right, I mean, we know there is a shortage of funds in the borough, and that there are grants to be had, and very often those grants require some sort of commitment from the borough.
right.
Yeah,
We actually, okay.
I mean,
I would love to see NIDA to be an incentive and motivating us to go after strategically some of these grants.
Right.
And when we do that, some of that in-kind, some of the funds required by the borough kind of cost you that grants could come from NIDA. So in other words, rather than doing one-off projects, NIDA really serves as a feeder for more strategic, larger grants.
I think that's a perfect use of that money because, you know, the need for matching funds, sometimes grants come out mid-year, they don't always sync with your budgeting cycle, and you go, oh, we'd love to do that, we don't have the money for them. How can we scramble to do that? I mean,
Right.
it really it opens up a world of opportunity.
For example, we have, through the Volkswagen diesel settlement, we have a electric car charging station grant that's due in December.
Okay.
And would require a $5,000 match
Okay.
from the borough, but it's not, it's permanent, durable hardware that will qualify in our CIP, but it's not in our CIP plan,
Right.
because we just found out about it.
Yeah.
And it's due, is that, how quick a turnaround can you do? Like within
good question. I think since the library is in the room, I will have to admit that that turnaround can take a while. So in the past, Narberth Industrial Development Authority meetings were conducted ad hoc, and there are requirements for having them be duly advertised meetings, and which you're well familiar with. We'd like to get reorganized with 1 or 2 new board members and elect a chair. We currently do not have a chair elected yet. Once we have that chair, Ian and I have been talking about, I think I talked to Andy about advocating for us to have more regular meetings, so we don't have to worry about the advertising of meetings. Let's just have 3 fixed meetings a year, and anything that comes in to those meetings, we can approve on that more of that roughly quarterly kind of schedule.
Back to, I mean, typically the funds aren't due, right away after you receive grant approval. There's a window of opportunity. Do we have any sort of short-term moving money around, borrowing from a fund opportunity in the event that there was a need? In the event that NIDA agreed to cover matching funds, but there was a turnaround to when they could produce the funds, do we have the possibility of, do we have any sort of short-term fund we can draw from or borrowing from the capacity and then be reimbursed?
Council has authority to allocate funds from its capital fund to projects. We do that in a regular process and schedule, just so that we sort of get in the routine of doing it at certain times of year and in a certain way. But there's nothing in our local ordinances or in the borough code that says you've got to do it that way.
In addition to the funding opportunities of where the borough needs to come up with some funding in order to get some matching, there's sometimes situations where the borough needs to come up with that matching and they need another partner as well. The number of people that are providing matching may be important. In that case, Narberth is a separate funder, right? Sure. So you get the 5 from here and 5 from here, and then you get 10 from someone else. That's another good use of the Industrial Development Authority. And I'm advocating for whatever the council determines is a funding need. I think that's what Narberth Industrial Development Authority is. We're too small to have some kind of separate direction, I think.
But one thing is these matching grants, or matching funds for grants, is a priority you guys would like to see.
Is that a consensus of the FNA? I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah,
Michelle, you're not.
I think I can see very concretely this example that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
This would be a great way to use the funds. So.
Absolutely. And moreover, I think it's a reminder for a borough council to be opportunistic and motivated to seek out grants a little bit more. To really identify NIDA as that partner is a direction I would like to see us go as council. So if we're comfortable with that, and you both are comfortable with that as the 2 current NIDA members, then perhaps that can be the recommendation that FNA makes to the full council.
Yes.
And that is just to use us to, 1, be more aggressive in going after these grants, and then 2, use NIDA as a prime candidate to help.
Like a match or a partner.
Gotcha.
I think the EV charger is a perfect example, and is actually what I thought of first when I heard about that I don't think that's a general budget line item. It would be CIP. It doesn't add up. You just,
On that one, I have a different opinion.
okay. Do you want to share?
Oh, is it time? I mean, we're still in NIDA, but
Okay.
are we going to talk about the budget in that? You can share whenever you want.
Okay, if it's not NIDA related, let's hold it. Okay, I saw it as a perfect NIDA example. Okay, we have this grant, it doesn't really fit in the budget system right now. This would be a wonderful opportunity for us to be strategic.
The reason I have a different opinion is that we have the option to price the electricity so that we can make it revenue neutral over time. So I don't, I think that it might make more sense for us to make it strategically price the electricity use.
Got it.
So that we make that.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Okay. All right.
There is an area that the borough might be able to help Narberth Industrial Development Authority as well. We have enjoyed the services of a funding consultant and a lawyer in the past. In the last, since Ian and I have been on the authority, we have not been getting new funding requests from on the bank side through that channel. And so your relationships, Sean, your relationships at the county or other levels in terms of people who are doing this kind of industrial development authority will help, because I think we need to make new partnerships to get the bank requests to come into Norfolk.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the forum for this, but I think, if we're just kind of introducing ourselves or what we do, a little bit of a refresher. I think one, we're kind of obviously reorganizing. Amy was chair for, I don't know how long, of NIDA, but it's left for how long?
A year.
That was all she was, really? But I think we've kind of noticed, Serge and I are noticing there's just a lack of activity, which is troublesome, I would say. I mean, this is a great opportunity for the borough to help fund some of these, and we're just not seeing the activity that we think we ought to. So we're just beginning to investigate.
On the lending side or the draw side? You mean on the lending side?
Correct, yeah, of us sponsoring.
So who brings, so we have, the way it works, I believe we have, like, there's a firm or counsel or legal firm that brings us.
Right.
The brokers or these deals. Okay.
Right. So, yes, as Serge was saying, we have a consultant and we have a legal counsel that are kind of sourcing these deals. So as we're just getting a little more acclimated, we're trying to figure out, work with them a little bit better to be like, where is the activity?
So
just so you know, that's a bit of our priority for us.
this is not a discussion for now, but perhaps an infrastructure question. Bob, I'm looking at you. I do wonder, as you develop the RFP for Sabine and our quest to think about how do we increase civic space, perhaps when we have those conversations about bringing in nonprofits and civic space, educating folks to let them know that there is availability for nonprofits to utilize.
That kind of lending.
Yes, that kind of lending it might be important to put that in the RFP when we say we want civic space. Just so nonprofits know.
Yeah, the lending level it doesn't make sense below $500,000, and there isn't any more than $10 million of lending level that the banks will do under Northwest Boroughs Industrial Development.
And are the rates, you said sometimes better,
Yes, Michelle, you hit the point of the edge of my knowledge. I don't understand what drives the municipal rate to be lower than the other bond rate.
No worries, and
and when it
I'm
happens.
getting off on a tangent, so.
Non-taxable usually is the.
Yeah, and when is it good? When is it good enough that people start looking for that kind of rate? Right now, they don't seem to be looking for it.
Yeah, the borough just recently the borough had its feet in both taxable and non-taxable lending, because some of the money that we borrowed was to be used for commercial property that the borough happens to own, which is an odd thing in and of itself. So we paid prime rate on the non-taxable, on the taxable,
Right.
and prime less 1.25 on
Oh, okay, so that sounds like
the non-taxable.
it would be worth it. 25 points.
All right, thanks. Then we'll share our thoughts with council.
Thank you.
And see if we
That's
can
very
get back to you.
helpful.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And a final call to put your name in it.
Yes,
Folks want to
yes,
join
two new
Yeah,
people.
anyone wants to join the Northwest Industrial Development Authority.
Submitted your name, so I think you would dealt with later on.
Great.
Perhaps.
Thanks.
Okay, so next, I sent you all, we did not print this out, the user agreements. Yes. If we want to take a minute to pull those up. We're not looking for, we're not,
I'm just telling you the truth.
are we doing anything with these at our business meeting? We're not taking, I didn't see them on the agenda. We're not taking action, but I would like us, because, well, yeah, I hope that we take action, so I'm hoping that we can go. I sent it in an email. Okay, so we can go with, John just actually sent the updated one, so that should be the last email
Oh, okay.
at 10:38 a.m. Okay.
I have one 7:30 to 7 a.m.
Yeah, and then he sent an updated one at 10:30.
Okay.
Okay, so we have talked about the information officer line of $12,000 is being dissolved because the new communication plan is going into effect in January. So therefore, the recommendation was to take that $12,000 and reallocate it to the Norwood Business Association. Under borough code, we are limited, but it's really broad as to what we can or how we can allocate those funds. So what John gave us was a resolution for the borough of Narberth to commit funding, both in kind and financial, per the PO Borough Code to the Narberth Business Association. Originally, we talked about, is this an MOU? I actually prefer that it's a resolution because it shows our commitment to economic development. And that was a priority of our comp plan. And I just think a resolution solidifies the fact that the borough does give in kind as it stands with policing and security and public works. This adds additional funding that can be used. If you scroll down, there are 11 items that funds could go to. Music, trees, observance of holidays, anniversaries, centennials, any celebration in the borough, civic projects or programs, community development to benefit senior citizens, any emergency fire services, streets and sidewalks, garbage. So it's that in-kind stuff. And then there's kind of a catch-all 11 for uses that maintain the borough's trade, commerce, and manufacturing industries.
Please, the 11 is there as a catch-all, so that this is flexible enough to support, for example, like a marketing campaign, a buy local campaign,
Absolutely.
or something like that during bridge construction.
Absolutely. So I confirmed with John, could that be a social media campaign? Could that be web development? Could that be marketing? He said, absolutely. Anything that goes to the commerce of the borough. So it really gives flexibility, but I think publicly solidifies Borough Council's commitment to the downtown as a public good. So there's really not much we can do per PA Borough Code with this. Like there's not much editing we can do because we're kind of confined to these 11. So, do you have any questions, or do you think that we can move this to the table for a vote?
Tonight? So the only
Not
thing
tonight,
that I was
not
keep
tonight.
saying that I'm more comfortable, not just this, but sort of any time that we have really an intro into a resolution where we provide this kind of support, public support. I'm more comfortable having a provision also including some provision for some form of reporting, some sort of standardized expectation that on an annual basis or quarterly or whatever council thinks, there's a sort of a standard form of reporting about what the funding's been used for, what initiatives it's supported, sort of just in general how it's gone. I think it's important to check in on that. Otherwise we sort of put the funding in and we don't really know what happened. I think we should probably take the responsibility to keep on top of that since it's public support.
Not only the front door, but at the report at the end of the funding period
I think
as well.
so, yeah. I think it's a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, you have built-in control, right? Because it's on a reimbursable basis, so only for these categories, right?
Yeah.
So you're not handing over 12.
Well, no. I don't know. There really isn't any. I don't think there is a process in here for how.
There's not. I
For
think there's
disbursement. So
when I asked John about that, I think that's we have the discretion to do that. So what I hear you saying is that we would release funds when you have a proposal quarterly, yearly, half a year.
that's one way to do it.
Put the proposal in, release the funds, and then have a funding period report at the end.
Yeah, but whatever, and I think it should be stated up front and clear because it's not really fair to the recipient if they don't know what they're expected to ask.
So adding it in the resolution.
See your comment, I think it's a good one, about just sort of a boilerplate approach that applies to any resolution that we pass.
Yeah.
And then there's specific things about how the money would be used, the amount of funding in each resolution.
Right, I agree.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, so ask John if he can add in
Yeah, maybe
process.
if you work
the process.
the office to craft that. Maybe I don't. Or do you want to work with us or with you? I think that you probably have good ideas about how to craft those administrative.
Yeah.
restraints. Okay.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Are you comfortable with that
Yeah.
one? Okay. Okay. Next is user agreements for borough property. You should also have in your mail from me. Okay, so this is the work of Barbara and Michelle.
This is not the work of Barbara Michelle.
You started the conversation of how are we thinking about our property. Okay, so what this is looking at recurring use of facilities of Narberth Borough property. So what we're talking about is this building, the east and west wing of Windsor, and our parks. So this is not every user, this is just reoccurring users. It is as general and as broad as can be, and it's really just taking over some responsibility and clarity of our property. And I think it's really unhelpful for folks to think that they're getting thrown out of borough use or property of parks. So we should be clear that that's not what we're doing, but rather we're setting clear expectations of who is responsible for what and what are the duties of having space. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, but John actually highlighted
Things that he wants our input.
correct, and just some general things such as the terms of who can be a recurring user, recreational, civic, charitable. The recurring use is it free of charge if it's on a reoccurring? Is there a security deposit? I mean, that was one of the questions that he had asked. Alcohol, should we permit having alcohol in recurring use in our buildings? I mean, as an attorney, I asked him about that. He's like, I'm your attorney, so I'm going to tell you that liability goes up anytime you have alcohol. But I get that that's not the tenor of the community and the climate of the community to say you can never have alcohol in a community space.
And he required the user to just insure themselves appropriately. I mean, if there is a number that's sufficient to cover the rest, then.
There's certain facilities owned by government agencies like there's a park in Chester County that is an old sheep farm, and you can rent the building and have your wedding there. And I can tell you offline why I know that. And you do it with a caterer who carries their own insurance and indemnifies the owner against any claims and responsibility for any claims that arise during the event.
Yeah, I mean, he has a
So
specific.
that's a good model.
Yeah, to ask about the use of tobacco, alcohol, open flames, and gambling. Open flames seems like a bad
Flames seems
idea.
like a bad idea. I don't want that under any
Yeah, no,
circumstance.
that probably shouldn't be allowed.
Tobacco, I don't think we need that smell.
Um,
Do that outside. Alcohol, maybe contingent on appropriate insurance.
I agree.
Insurance that it's sufficient to protect the borough's interests.
Agree.
May for some users just say this isn't worth it.
Of course, but I think,
Which is fine, but let's just be clear about it.
you're getting,
Why is gambling even on here?
I think this is the boilerplate, yeah. Like,
I think that's fine.
Additionally, if you look under K, it is, the number for you, 3K. While this seems obvious, it actually was never explicit to people. You can't alter our building. So he actually says the user shall not make any permanent improvements, alterations, and that if you do, then you have to pay back the borough, you have to reimburse the borough. For that. It has to be approved.
Yeah.
And if it's not approved,
There's
the second sentence?
Second last sentence.
Yeah.
section K as the revenue.
Oh, okay.
Any damage caused by us having to remediate.
But there's a process to do it.
Mhm. Deduction from security deposit, I mean, I think it's all, this is all kind of
You're
standard.
talking about like the Girl Scouts or Legion
So, yeah, the east-west wing.
Whoever might maybe
or
have present
Civic or
future.
anything
Uh-huh.
group in here.
Well,
Yep.
no, they're not recurring users. Well, maybe they are.
They were monthly. So the fields, so for example,
Mm-hmm,
the Narberth Park and Playground.
right. What line is that?
So that is, hold on.
Yeah, there were some things here where I think that, I'm not sure who's put eyeballs on this yet, other than us. As in
Ed,
and Ed has.
Ed Harmon gave feedback to say.
Okay, that was my question.
The field users. So the original document, which actually didn't even get to you two, because John, Ed and I had the conversation, the original document had language such as, if there is damage to the field, right? Then you are to fix the damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't think Ed Harmon's gonna want random people coming in and fixing the fields.
Right.
So Ed said, no, what he would like is some language to say if you have overture use or something, like
Mhm.
un-
Well,
unexpected
this would be
display.
it's the baseball net, right?
Exactly.
So if you have adult players,
Yes,
then, you know, there has to be some fee for a damaged net.
there would be, it's security deposit, and then there would be some fee for overture use. Or if the fields get
So-
totally dug up.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a whole provision there for maintenance and upkeep of playing fields, lining, painting, maintaining, fixtures in the fields, including grass seed, reseeding, such forth and so on.
What letter are you mentioning?
What are you on?
A J. And I kind of thought that's where we came from, and that wasn't working so well. And that we wanted to be able to ensure that these things got done on a proper schedule and in the way that makes sense for the community. So I was confused about some of the maintenance things like waxing floor, buffing and waxing floors that we have maintenance services does that. Things like seeding fields, I don't think that those belong in there. I don't, unless we're making a radical change.
I think you're on the right
Okay.
trail, having only skimmed the
Okay.
agreement. That's an appropriate thing for us to look at.
Right, so we need to look that one more closely.
Okay.
There's some things we want them to do. There are some things I think we want to do. There's a question whether or not recurring users should be, whether there should be a fee to help defray the cost of some of the maintenance that really only makes sense for one entity to do. I mean, you have multiple users.
Right.
Who's going to seat the fields? I mean, your turn. I mean, that doesn't make sense. to have
Well, nor does
multiple
Ed
entities.
want to give up control. Yeah, like he is most definitely not wanting, but for the waxing of the floors, for example, you're not going to have separate cleaning folks come in
It would be silly.
per.
I also think this needs a little more work.
Okay.
Sort of hammer, pull those things out that are single entity like borough control things. But I think there should be some due consideration to whether or not recurring users should be helped to defray the cost of this or not. Just thought.
Okay. So could we ask John Walco to run that by the office and the professional staff, this user agreement for the next iteration?
Yeah, we're going to have to look at it.
So office and John Walco. Okay, Michelle, anything on the conflict of interest? Yeah. Any public comment here? Anybody here public comment for F&A? Oh, Andy, can you name and address?
203 Wayne, also a member of the NIDA. I'm sorry I missed evidently the relevant part of the discussion. I do want to say, however, that the NIDA has not met at all prior to this most recent budgeting process, nor do I know what a quorum consists of right now, since there only seem to be 3 active members, including myself. I'm at fault because I didn't look at the right agenda here to see what was on score for tonight, but I will try to catch up on what was said, and if there were any policy discussions that I would like to comment on later, which I will and will forward, I guess, to you, Cindy, as the chairman of this committee? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hearing none, let's